Well, as we know, Britain is heading on the precipice of civil war, but much more importantly, Rangers are set to play their first qualifying game to get into the Champions League tomorrow night. Obviously, we can either touch on that in a later video, touch on the build up to that during this video. But I think first of all, what we'd planned on doing was just getting a wee bit of the reaction and response for you guys off of Twitter, see what you are thinking after the opening game of the season against Hearts, just see what the sort of atmosphere is like surrounding Ibrox. I know it's no great for what I've read on Twitter. There's no too much optimism floating about, and honestly that's no surprise whatsoever.
No, we're just going to start off with Every Other Saturday podcast, who said we're going into a UCL qualifier again, probably in worse state than we have been at this point in years. No confidence. We don't go over there and get absolutely battered. Matondo, Lawrence and Dessers will still make up the front four.
That's only 3 players. Anyway, we're not going to criticise your mathematics. We'll forgive you. It's only Monday here. So, interesting. First of all, I mean, how important these games are. I mean, I think it's worth something like 43 million, so you're talking about 40 million pounds. Not this game alone, but obviously over the 2 qualifying legs to get into the Champions League, it's worth a lot of money. And you would think if the board were wise and the manager had got his way, that he would be going into these games with the strongest possible outfit, with all his signings on board early in the summer, and with a team who's, you know, played together, started to gel and started to peak in their performance. But actually it seems like what we're doing is kind of scraping the bottom of the barrel. You're talking about Matondo, Lawrence, Scott Wright.
Well, the thing is, it's like we kind of done it backwards this year, because we got all of those, and we've spoken about this before, but we got all of those, you know, the young, promising, you know, supplement players, the developmental players in quite early doors when everybody was, you know, screaming out for the first and foremost that starting XI to be ripped apart and made stronger, so that at this point in the season we can actually get tore in and claim that Champions League money. Because let's be honest, we've got, let's see here, we've got, if we go through, we've got Dynamo Kiev. If we go through against Dynamo Kiev, we've got Salzburg or FC 20. So it's like, in normal circumstances, I think that's very doable. That's a very doable path. But this isn't normal circumstances.
No.
Arguably, because we've done it backwards, we've now got a squad who has been ripped apart. Has had those prospect players brought in and secured, but we're still without. You look at that starting XI and you think to yourself, if we were to complete this rebuild, probably about 70% of that squad isn't starting come the start of the season, the end of the transfer window. If we get the players in we need.
And that's the thing, you're talking about completing rebuilds and stuff like that. The season's underway and the transfer window is not going to be open for too much longer. Do you know what I mean? When is it? Does it close at the end of August?
End of August.
So you're talking, maybe 3 weeks or something like that to get players in. By the time these players are in, it's too late for them to play in these qualifying games, so they're going to give you nothing in that regard. By the time if we leave it any later, by the time these players are in the door, they won't be ready to compete in the first Old Firm game. We brought players in who are featuring for the B team. Tell me, what rebuild have you ever heard of that signs players to play in your fucking B team?
I know.
Do you know what I mean? Where is the sense in that? Meanwhile, we let Lammers go, who seemed to actually do all right when he left us last season. I'm not saying hang on to Sam Lammers. He's our he would have been our saviour, or he would have transformed us and would have gone back a different player. But what I'm saying is, you had a player in Sam Lammers
that was ready to go.
That was ready to go, and he wasn't very good when he was with us, but he went out. He seemed to do okay. Maybe you take a chance on him. who knows? But what we're ending up doing is we're having players like Cantwell requesting to leave. We don't know. We've got players who are under our books, we're paying wages to. They're not training with the first team.
No.
They're not playing with the B team. Where the fuck is Cantwell?
No.
And then you get a player in Hadji who had a decent Euros during the summer, who was honestly certainly nowhere near one of the worst players that we had in our team when he was here.
Mm-hmm.
But he goes out on loan. We don't know what's happening with him. We don't know if he wants to stay or leave. We don't know if Clement wants to keep him. And now he's playing for the B team, setting up a goal within the first 5-10 minutes. And the fans are just scratching their head. I mean, what is... We've never seen the likes of this at Rangers Football Club.
No, we
ever.
don't. It's the fact that there's so many things that we just don't have a clue what's going on with. We don't have a clue how we're going to play next season. We don't have a clue what kind of squad that Clement's going to be able to bring together. We don't have a clue if we've got the money to bring in that squad that Clement demands. We don't have a clue what's happening with the players in terms of outgoings. We don't know if Tav's going to stay. Is Tav going to stay? Has he got to go? Is Hadji actually got to come into the first team and be used for numbers? Is he going to leave? Like, there's
what is the justification? Like, what can you think of any justification for having Hadji playing in the B team today? Like, if he's fit enough to start a B team game, is he not fit enough to feature on the bench for us?
It might be just coming off the back of the Euros things. Maybe hasn't played that much football and it's just getting used as a kind of.
But remember, he played through the summer, whereas most other people didn't. I know he's probably not had a full pre-season under his belt, but surely you want to draw on a player like Hadji even for 10-15 minutes, somebody who maybe come with a wee bit of a creative spark, somebody that's certainly almost just as good, if not better, than Scott Wright, even if he isn't 100% fit. But I don't think fitness is the issue. I think it's something's going on there.
Something's like
Hadji wants to,
in the
Clement's no interested in playing him. And
I can't see Clement no being interested because let's be honest, if again,
but we need some clarity here.
Yeah, exactly. That's all the fans want. We'll move on to another comment. Art Vanderlei says Rangers fans still blaming 2012 for the state of the current squad are weird. I think it's their comfort blanket. Highest wage bill last season, almost 70 million, and we spent about as much as Celtic have the last few years, but clearly not spent it well. And I think that's the fans' biggest issues with the way the club has been run and how we've found ourselves in this situation is simply down to the fact that we've spent money, yes, but the money's been mismanaged tremendously. The money's been spent on overinflated wages. Risks have been taken on players like Cantwell from down south, again, who's coming up looking to reignite careers. That was our plan, was to hopefully, reignite careers, get players in that are kind of falling out of favour at their clubs down south.
Also players who are playing maybe at the Championship level, maybe featured in the Premier League, who think they can come up to Scotland and stroll it. Ultimately it's not just as easy as that, believe it or no. Do you know what I mean? It's a tough competitive league. Come up?
You look at like
a lot of pressure.
Like Aaron Ramsey, Joey Barton, like all the now Cantwell, seeing it's no as
Dowell can't even get a sniff barely at the starting 11. It's no just as simple as I've played down south, I've played in the Championship, I can walk up to the SPFL and stroll it, because it's a tough environment.
Aye,
do you know what I mean? Especially when you play with one of the old firm teams, there's no room for a sort of mid-table Championship team mentality.
No.
Some weeks we'll win, some weeks we'll lose.
That's the thing, you get found out at Rangers and Celtic, you get found out extremely fucking quickly.
Yeah.
Extremely quickly. Just with how hostile the atmosphere is, how obviously passionate and involved the fans are on everything to come out the club or happen with the club. Like you've almost nowhere to hide, and there's people who can't necessarily handle that.
But that's it, and it's a great environment. If you want to make a name for yourself and you want to sort of cement the legacy of your career, you can come to Rangers and you'll probably leave a hero or a villain. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
There's almost no middle ground.
No.
But you succeed, then there's no better place to succeed. But if you do what Cantwell appears to have done, and sort of not been able to handle it and thrown in the towel. I mean, I think Cantwell, we spoke about it at the end of last season. He was found out, and he was found lacking majorly in the big games, which are the Old Firms. I mean, you're talking about maybe some of the smaller teams that you play, but this is the case in every league. Not every league is like a blockbuster fixture week in, week out.
Yep.
You know what I mean? There's going to be some games where you're expected to win. It's going to be easier. There's going to be some teams who have got a much smaller budget and who are not as competitive, right? But see, when it comes to that crunch day and those 4-5 Old Firms, you're talking about one of, if not certainly the top 3 derbies in the world.
Yep.
The most competitive and inflammatory and intense derbies with a lot of history and everything for that whole weekend in Glasgow, throughout Scotland and Britain in some instances, and the world over. All eyes are on that fixture.
Aye.
And that's a lot to handle as a player.
100%.
And you come out and you flop once or twice, man, that can break your Rangers or Celtic career
100%.
ultimately. Do you know
Aye.
what I mean?
Definitely. I mean, there's players in this squad right now whose reputations were absolutely shattered sheerly down to Old Firm games. That's
Aye.
how it works. That's how it works at Rangers. That's how it works in Scottish football. But we'll move on to the MBS 1872. Says Gerrard had to build a team over several seasons due to finances. But even in his first season, you could see that players were drilled to their role. The team moved as one and their shape was generally always visible. We could fail due to one weak link, not moving or working with the rest of the team. Unless the players have genuinely chucked it and don't want to be here, then there is really no excuse as to why we have no shape or structure. Are we only going to see a shape or structure once he has all the players he wants in? That could be several windows. And it's a thing, like, obviously, there's a lot of people, and it is, in my opinion, still unfair to criticise or blame Clement solely for the way things have went, because he has inherited dross. But the thing is, I agree with it in a sense of you almost need to play with the cards you've been dealt. And you can't really be stubborn. I'm no football manager, right? But like, you can't really be stubborn in what you want to do and the way you want to play when you've not got the players there to be able to do it. At the end of the day, we've got to drag ourselves through this next month and somehow find a way to win. That should be the only priority, is somehow, no matter how we play, what we do, we need to somehow find a way to win. And I just don't really see anything coming through the cracks just now that suggests that, oh, well, until the time comes where we do, if we do have the squad that we need, there's just nothing shown through the cracks that tells me, right, we've got what it takes, we've at least got a direction to go in, or we're utilising certain strengths to be able to guide us through this month. And I just haven't seen it so far. I don't know about you.
Well, my initial thoughts are like, I don't see anything changing for the better right now. I don't see any, clear sense of identity about this team in terms of how they're going to play. Actually, what I'm seeing is clear is that we're going direct a lot more, and at times it's actually really no good to watch.
No.
You know what I mean? So we're doing that differently, which doesn't fill me with confidence, and other than that, things are really just remaining much the same. A lot of times it's the same old story. It's that possession for possession's sake. We're not being direct enough or aggressive enough. Now, is that just, is your manager almost handicapped by the quality of players that he has in the park? And maybe if he did have better quality, he would be able to, implement his more aggressive and attacking style. But remember when Clement come through the door, his whole thing was like, we're going to like outscore teams, we want to create chance after chance. And last season, one of the games, I can't remember who it was against, Livingston, Motherwell perhaps, we had something like 45 shots at goal or something like that. It was chance creation and then some. But for me, it seems that things have kind of stagnated, and mate, I'm still here a year later, a year on for the Michael Beale era, where I cannot remember the last time I actually looked forward to watching a Rangers game. Now, I watch them. Of course I'll watch them. I'll support them, of course. But I'm not getting into the game thinking, this is going to be a cracker, man. We're going to take it to that team. We're going to be
exciting football.
no exciting. It's more like nervous, like sort of dread, and that's really unfortunate, man. Because even this game tomorrow night is massive. But we sort of know who's going to be on the park for us, and it's really hard to get excited about that's been fielded. You know what I mean? It's soul destroying almost.
As we said, like Kiev 20, Salzburg, these are teams that maybe this time last year or the year before that, if we'd have come up against, especially after the Europa League run, we'd have come up against these kind of teams, every single fan would go 100% brilliant draw, like 100% fan.
It's there for the taking.
It'd take a collapse to no make it through these. I'm not saying it's guaranteed we'd win it, but fans would have a lot more, hope about the situation and thinking more confidence about the situation. But this year, everything's just kind of fell flat because, again, it's like we don't know to the extent of how completed this squad is, and what we're seeing in the park right now is absolute garbage. Like, it's no fun to watch. It's no entertaining. We know exactly the way the players are going to play that we've got on the park. We know exactly what kind of performance we're going to get. And let's be honest, these teams this is us going into. Obviously Hearts is a huge game. You're going against Motherwell. These are all big games. They are bread and butter games, but it's a whole different level going into these Champions League qualifiers. It's a whole different calibre of opponent. And if we're not confident for our bread and butter games, of course we're going to be shitting it a bit for the Champions League qualifiers.
You look at the state that we've been in during this summer transfer window in terms of trying to offload people, right? We've offloaded a good few people and we still haven't brought in the sort of the talent, the experience, the quality that we need. So for me, these are crucial fixtures, massive, not just for this year, not just for the next transfer window, but you're talking, 40 million, you're talking 2, 3, 4 years down the line. This could be important. We simply don't have the luxury or the resources to be able to get through and get this money. Do you know what I mean? You see, we're clutching at straws, during this summer, trying to get players on loan or find a cheap gem. We need the money. We need to win these. We need to get in the Champions League. Obviously, we're not going to make a dent once we're there. But we need that initial qualifying money because we know that the team across the city are straight in there and guaranteed the money, and they're already miles ahead of us when it comes to off the park, when it comes to a business standpoint. There's only one way that we could try and claw that deficit back. Two ways perhaps, but one way really. We need the Champions League money because even winning the league pales in comparison to the sort of money that gets dished out on the European stage. Winning the league is great and better for the fans, probably more important for the fans than the Champions League is.
But from a purely business perspective.
But from a business point of view, that is where the important business is done.
Aye, 100%.
And look, even last season, I think I was more confident for us going into the Champions League qualifiers than I am this season. Because like I say, I truly think that I were supposedly in a rebuild, which honestly I'm getting sick fucking fed up of hearing this word rebuild when it looks nothing like a rebuild to me. And maybe if we're going to use the term rebuild, you should actually put maybe a time scale on the rebuild. When you say rebuild, what is it you're talking about? Are you talking about this is going to be a 5-year rebuild? Because rebuild's thrown about as soon as that summer transfer window opened, but then it's starting to close in on the end of it, and we're still talking about rebuild. So what are we talking? Are we talking, 3, 4, 5 years down the line? If that's just gives a reasonable suggestion about how long this is going to fucking take. Do you know what I mean? And then it might not be as stressful for us fans sitting here going, what is happening here exactly?
Well, exactly. That's what I think a lot of fans were, even with that, the chairman's kind of communications was that we wanted to hear him come out and say, listen, here's the mistakes we've made, here's the plan and how we're going to fix it in terms of an on the park perspective. Now, we all know or have the feeling as fans that this rebuild is probably going to take 2, 3, possibly 4 windows because of the scale of the mistakes that have been happening specifically last year, but let's be honest, ever since 55. It takes a long nowadays it's alright having the financial power, but you've still got so many rules and regulations run about that's constraining you into how much work you can get done in the single window. But coming out and putting the narrative across, say this is a rebuild as if it's almost urgent, is it can cause confusion, definitely, because if the fans have got a sense of urgency about it, you're going to get to games like this and say, like, what's going on? Like, there's going to be pressure on the board. Like, why are we not bringing new players? Why are we not bringing new signings in? And we've got all these important games coming up. When if they come out and said first time, listen, it's not realistic that we're going to be able to complete this rebuild for the get go. We're going to have to fix these mistakes over a stretch period of time, a number of windows, and maybe that's what they were doing in terms of giving Clement an extended contract to say, listen, this is got to be a long project. But again, it's just clarity we want. As fans, we just want clarity. What's going on? How many are we looking to bring into the squad? How many players does the manager think this window that we need to be able to at least compete?
Aye, and then coming out and saying stuff like, we'll not be ready, like we'll not be fully ready for like another 2-3 months. Why even say that? Like, it just comes out, it just pisses the fans off. You're like, so you're going to tell me on the, like, I think it was in the build-up interview towards the first game of the season that we've spent all this summer waiting on this rebuild to happen. And then it's the first game of the season approach, you're telling me now that we're not going to be ready for another 2-3 months. Do you know what I mean? After we've played our pre-season games, and you're like, right, well, you're kind of stating the obvious there, because we've just watched the whole pre-season. We see the starting 11 that you're putting out at the weekend against Hearts. We know that, it's evident, but then why even come out and say it? Because it makes you lose hope in a sense. Do you know what I mean? Like, I can't remember any other Rangers manager starting a season going like that. Do you know, halfway through the season, we'll be ready to go. Oh, fucking brilliant! Aye, cheers.
I know. Well, I mean? And again, thinking about that kind of does to the players as well. Like,
I know
the players hearing the manager basically say, right, we're not ready yet. Like, it's almost.
And they're no good enough. He's basically admitting, do you know what I mean?
There's a lot of players in this squad that aren't good enough, and you've got that on top of the fans piling on and saying these, rightfully so, that this squad isn't good enough. And on top of that, almost think how flat and, as you said, toxic the atmosphere is going to be at Hampden, and when we get back to Ibrox, if we get to that stage of the season, after we get back to Ibrox, and the team's still not firing on all cylinders, and let's be honest, like, who's going to want to even go to a fucking game? Like when you know for a fact this team's not ready, it's going to be shit football, it's going to be hard to watch, it's going to be a typical.
And let's be honest, right, mate? As much as every Rangers fan doesn't want to admit that they're having the occasional glance at the other team across the city, right? But Celtic had some great results through their pre-season. They've just dispatched Kilmarnock 4-0, first game of the season. They appear to be flying, whilst we are in a very precarious situation. And don't lie to me using the comments and say, oh, don't think about them. We must all have a slight thought or two about this first Old Firm game of the season, and and generally are fearing the worst.
Aye,
because let's be honest, we're fearing the worst.
I mean, I was fearing the worst with last season's almost, complete first team, never mind half a first team that we've got the now. I mean, obviously there's some shining light in that first team. You've got the likes of Barn, Diamande, obviously Butland, Yilmaz, you've got a couple, a new signing like Proper coming in, Cherney, obviously he got 15 minutes.
Getting to the two, actually, got another comment here. By Doogie, please start Proper in Cherney tomorrow night, Rangers. They may not be fully integrated or fit yet, but surely they're still a better option than Ben Davies and Scott Wright. The absolute state of our squad, that these two are in contention to play in a must-win Champions League qualifier. Actually just kind of echoing what we were saying at the weekend,
it comes down to what's more of a gamble,
Aye, that's true. Aye, staying with the same shite or trying something different.
Aye, I know. What is more of a gamble? For me, sticking with the same shite is the bigger gamble, because we know what we're going. It's not even a gamble. We know what performance
you stick with Scott Wright and Ben Davies, and we go out and lose this tomorrow, or we go out and have a really poor performance. It just adds more ammunition to the fans to keep screaming about what they've been screaming about. But if you put in Cherney and Proper for the start and just, go for it, just try them, just see what they're like. The fans aren't going to come down like a ton of bricks on Cherney and Proper their first game in a massive Champions League qualifier, do you know what I mean? So even the backlash, if we didn't perform well or got beat, just wouldn't be as harsh, because you don't have that build up of frustration and anger at these two players that are not good enough and shouldn't be playing in such a big game like this.
Aye, definitely. Personally, I mean, I know that there is always going to be a section of the fans that write folk off after one game, but the majority of level-headed fans aren't going to take, if we get into this and we end up getting beat up in a poor performance again, which I highly doubt we'll see as bad a performance as we did against Hearts. Obviously, if we mix things up, but folk aren't going to just write, as you said, folk aren't going to just write a couple of players off as soon as they've started. And let's be honest, as you said, the match reaction, you seen a difference in the way we played in Tav's freedom as well. Aye. When you get Scott Wright off the park and put Cherney on, Tav was allowed to get higher up the park, which is where, if there's any redeeming quality about Tav the new, it's
get him higher
up the park. You know what I mean? But
also, you've got that other added threat of Cherney cutting in on his left foot, because I'm sure he's left-footed. He likes to cut inside. But we've seen it as soon as Cherney came on, he started to drift inside and give Tav that room to overlap, to go and swing balls into the box. Do you know what I mean? It opened up that space, whereas Scott Wright likes to hug the touchline, likes to be wide, but that doesn't suit Tav. Tav wants to get run about the wing in front of him, and that happened only as soon as Cherney came on, but it happened numerous times after he came on. There was a clear difference in our play down the right hand side when he came on. So, I think Clement just simply needs to realise that he needs to just take a massive risk, a massive gamble, and put these players in.
Aye, 100%.
I don't think we have anything to lose. Do you know what I mean? Because like you say, we know what we're going to get for the same old faces.
I know, confidence is at rock bottom, and usually this Rangers team with the old mentality that it had would be a team that thrived when the fans and everybody ran about them and wrote them off. Like, we don't have that mentality anywhere. We're a bare bones squad. We don't know what kind of mentality we've got now. I think that's a big part of the issue. Is we
don't have a fucking mentality. That's the problem,
and
that's half my problem. You know how I'm saying, like, I'm not looking for. Well, I've not looked forward to watching a game for so long, because you're going in kind of knowing what to expect, but knowing it's going to be insufferable for 90 minutes basically, with the odd glimmer of sort of a promise, perhaps, maybe if you're lucky you'll get the occasional bit of creativity or something. But another thing, in years gone by, maybe when we weren't playing as good, we still had characters in the team, folk that could dig deep. I don't look at this team and think, even if they don't show up from a quality standpoint tomorrow night, I don't look and see 11 players there. You're lucky if I see 4 or 5 players there who are going to really dig deep and give it everything, because it might come to tomorrow night and we aren't the best team. We aren't the best team, but you don't always need to be the best team in the park to win football matches. Sometimes it takes, you know, an immense amount of running off the ball. Sometimes it takes, you know, using a different form of intelligence, breaking up play, having character, digging deep. It's not simply about whose players are the best technically. But when I look at that Rangers team, mate, there's a severe lack of big characters, fighters, people who are aggressive. I was actually speaking to somebody the other day there and saying you could make a compilation of the amount of times that Dessers misses a chance and the camera goes to him and he's just like...
Aye, I know.
And people like Diamande who are... And I'm not saying the players shouldn't play with a smile, but there's times and places to be playing with a smile, and it's not when you've been held to a 0-0 draw in the first game of the season. It's not in certain instances where even you're getting beaten, you look too cheerful.
I know.
Do you know what I mean? You're dropping points. Stop looking as fucking happy is what I'm trying to say. Do you know what? You're missing sitters there, so get your thumb down, get your fucking heat down and start scoring goals. Then you can smile and laugh. Do you know what I mean? So it's just...
The only player that looked,
just rub me the wrong way.
For me, the only player that looked emotional and disappointed, frustrated was Barron.
But I think he comes with that sort of attitude, and that's what I was expecting for Barron. And I expect him to continue to grow in that role as a sort of leader without the armband, but somebody who'll dominate and be aggressive in the midfield, something that we've lacked for a while, all our part. But then you look at people like Ben Davies as well, who I thought had a terrible game at the weekend, and I thought was very, very lightweight, and who honestly doesn't... For me, is never a centre back. He's not tough enough. He's not aggressive enough. He's constantly out of position. He just looks very, very vulnerable. And he getting pushed about the park at the weekend over a smaller striker in Vargas. He's not fast enough. So definitely, I would replace him with Proper to see what Proper's made of tomorrow night. But just it's kind of all over the park. Cortez, Scott Wright, Dessers. There's very little fills me with hope in the Rangers team, and I've said it before, but maybe you look at Diamande, you look at Barron, but I've seen folk even been critically Diamande and Lawrence. I said that's the kind of strength of our team now is that Diamande, Lawrence and Barron, but I mean it wouldn't take them being that strong to be stronger than the rest of the players when with them, to be honest.
Because I think the criticism of Lawrence as well is merit, because you get that tactical criticism as well, because I know fans are kind of they're still kind of confused as to why we stick with playing with that number 10 and that number 10 in the two kind of home midfielders. And to be honest, I know for a fact even though I did appreciate Lawrence's performance, I know if we had a bit of real quality in that position, it would then not become an issue. But listen, it's so hard to even talking. I've kind of stepped back from talking tactically for the whole of the pre-season and some of last season and the start of this season, because again, I just believe the squad's a complete mess. Even if there was a clear style of play, even there was a clear identity, this squad is not capable of playing to their strengths. So I kind of just tactics doesn't even come into my mind.
And you don't have enough depth there to sort of change up the formation really and change up the style of play. Do you know what I mean? If you had to drop Lawrence, who are you putting in the number 10 instead of him? Hadji, he's not in. He's in the B team.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Cantwell's missing.
Who would play that position.
Yeah.
But he's AWOL.
Aye.
So you don't have a lot of depth to, sort of draw on, do you know what I mean? To change things a bit. And I think that's another problem that Clement has. But look, the behind the scenes have not done us any favours in terms of, recruiting for strength and depth. Again, I'll say what I said at the start of the podcast. It's like, we brought in players who weren't ready to go. We signed players as part of a rebuild that went straight into our B team. Make it make sense.
Aye.
We were desperate for people to come in this building who are ready to slot straight into that team and ready to go. One thing before we wrap up as well, obviously we've not really mentioned him much. Normally he gets most of the attention, but Dessers, do you think Dessers starts tomorrow night and Should he start, or should we see Danilo feature?
Probably. I think there's like 99% chance he's starting tomorrow night. I think he's the only option we've got, and that's the sad state of affairs that we're in. Clearly, Clement doesn't think he's fit enough to go for a full 90 minutes or a large portion of the game.
Is Danilo fit?
That's the thing. Nobody's communicated. Like, Clement says he's not necessarily fit.
If Czerny's no fit enough to start and we don't want to start Scott Wright, what about Dessers through the middle? What about Danilo out on the right?
I mean, it's worth a fucking chance. Anything's worth a go. You know what I mean? I think that's the point as well that we've made.
At least just to get him on the park for a bit. Somebody that could maybe score a goal, somebody that's a bit creative, somebody with pace, somebody who's probably hungry to get back into the team.
Aye, this is it's a perfect opportunity. It's frustrating because it's a perfect opportunity to experiment with wee daft things like that and see where that. Obviously, I'm not going to say with strengths because it might not be. It's not going to be optimally strong playing Danilo out in that right. But again, like, let's see what the best we can do is.
I mean, sometimes you just throw in a player that's desperate to play in any position. I mean, look at Dujon Sterling, for instance. You fired him in 4 different positions. The guy clearly just looked like he wanted to play football and he was ready to go and he was hungry to, win a position in the starting 11. So why you could do something similar with Danilo, just go like that here, just play it in the right wing tonight and it shows what you've got. Do you know what I mean?
100%.
Nothing to lose, like I say. Like I would rather Danilo out in the right, just to get him on the park in front of Scott Wright. Again, it's not going to happen. Highly unlikely. No. Again, the ideal scenario is that he just starts Czerny and we see what he's like for the get-go. But not looking forward to tomorrow night. Let's be honest. We've done it before. European nights we sort of seem to come alive, but I suppose we'll check back in after
the thing's always been like never write Rangers off in Europe, and that might be there might be a continuation of that, but again it's hard to get up for it.
Aye.
But anyway, if you've enjoyed this podcast, make sure you like and subscribe. Also, the BlueSea channel memberships are available. There's a wee join button up there if you're on your computer, or the links in the description if you're on any other device. That's next to our socials as well if you want to go over and check them out. That would be class, and we'll see you next time.